Mental tiredness doesn't always come from doing too much. Sometimes it comes from thinking the same way over and over, quietly, automatically, without realizing it. You wake up tired even after sleeping. You feel drained without doing anything demanding. Your body feels fine, but your mind feels heavy. And you start blaming motivation, or discipline, or focus, but none of those are the real issue. There's a silent thought pattern running in the background of your mind, one that never rests, never resolves, and never feels finished. It doesn't shout, it doesn't panic, it just stays on. This pattern constantly asks, what's next? What could go wrong? What should I be thinking about right now? Your brain treats these questions like unfinished tasks, and unfinished tasks drain energy. Not because they're hard, but because they never close. So your mind stays slightly tense, slightly alert, slightly working all day. You're not mentally tired because life is overwhelming. You're tired because your brain never feels allowed to power down. And unless you understand this pattern, rest will never feel like rest. This thought pattern doesn't appear suddenly. It develops slowly, almost invisibly, usually during times when being mentally alert felt necessary. Maybe you grew up needing to anticipate moods. Maybe mistakes had consequences. Maybe you learned that staying one step ahead meant staying safe. So your brain adapted. It learned to scan constantly, not in a dramatic, anxious way, but in a quiet, responsible way. Your mind became good at monitoring conversations, responsibilities, future outcomes, emotional shifts. At first, this felt useful. People probably described you as thoughtful, prepared, reliable, and you are. But here's the hidden cost. The brain doesn't know how to turn off a pattern it believes is keeping you safe. So the monitoring never stops. Even during rest. Even during calm. Even when nothing is required of you. This is why smart people struggle the most with mental fatigue. They don't just think, they track. They track what needs to be done, what hasn't been resolved, what could be misunderstood, what might require a response later. And because these thoughts don't have clear endings, the brain keeps them open, like tabs running in the background. Each one uses a small amount of energy. Not enough to notice individually, but enough to drain you collectively. Over time, your mind forgets what off feels like. Silence becomes uncomfortable. Doing nothing feels unproductive. Relaxation feels like you're missing something important. So you fill the quiet with scrolling, with planning, with low-level worry. Not because you enjoy it, but because your brain has learned that staying mentally active equals safety. And that's the pattern keeping you tired. Not stress, not effort, not workload, but a mind that never believes it's allowed to stop watching. This is why rest doesn't fix your mental tiredness. You can sleep, you can take breaks, you can step away from work and still feel drained. Because the pattern causing the fatigue isn't physical, it's cognitive vigilance. Your brain isn't tired from effort, it's tired from never standing down. Think about it this way. Your mind is constantly on standby mode, not fully active, but never fully resting either, like a computer with too many background processes running. You're not consciously thinking all the time, but your brain is still monitoring, anticipating, preparing, holding things open just in case. So even when you lie down, the system stays warm. That's why relaxation can feel oddly uncomfortable. That's why silence feels unfinished. That's why your mind drifts back to tasks, conversations, or future moments the second things slow down. Your brain doesn't trust rest. It trusts readiness. And here's the key insight most people miss. This pattern isn't maintained by thoughts, it's maintained by identity. Somewhere along the way, you learned, if I stop paying attention, something might slip. So the brain keeps watching, not loudly, not anxiously, just constantly. This is also why productivity advice doesn't help. Being more organized doesn't close the mental loops. Being more disciplined doesn't teach your brain to disengage. Being more positive doesn't convince your nervous system it's safe. The fatigue isn't coming from what you're doing. It's coming from what your brain believes would happen if you stopped. Until that belief changes, mental tiredness will keep returning, no matter how much rest you get. This pattern doesn't end when you force yourself to relax. It ends when your brain learns something new. Your mind doesn't stay alert because it wants to exhaust you. It stays alert because it believes constant awareness prevents regret. So the solution isn't shutting thoughts down. It's teaching your brain that nothing bad happens when awareness softens. That happens through small, repeated experiences, not effort. You let a thought remain unfinished and don't rush to complete it. You notice an urge to plan and delay it slightly. You allow silence to exist without filling it. At first, this feels uncomfortable. Your brain reacts, "You're forgetting something. You should think about this now." Stay alert. That discomfort isn't danger. It's withdrawal from vigilance. You stay with it anyway, not resisting, not judging, just noticing. And then something important happens. Nothing collapses. Nothing is lost. Nothing goes wrong. That moment teaches your nervous system more than logic ever could. It learns, I can stop watching and still be okay. Over time, your brain stops treating mental activity as protection. Thoughts slow down naturally. Silence stops feeling empty. Rest finally feels restorative. Not because life got easier, but because your mind stopped carrying responsibility for everything. You don't lose your intelligence. You don't become careless. You become selective. You think when thinking is needed. You rest when rest is possible. And that's the difference between being mentally active and being mentally exhausted. The silent thought pattern loosens its grip, not because you fought it, but because your brain no longer believes it's necessary. And when that belief changes, your energy returns.